Welcome to this week's moonLight of Emuna, Parshas Vayakhel-Pekudei, Parshas This week's learning should be Chus for Fuhr Shalema, for Nusin Feitel ben Yehuda, Shlam Esnacham Bashifra, Yehuda Menachem Merachon Per Malkaleya, Shmuel Shezyan Bechebechava, Menachem Mordechai ben Afira, and Lilu Nishmas, Charna Mash Bas Menachem Mendel, Ratza Bas Menachem Mendel, and Heni Bas Yechiel Mechel. So when we have a triple parsha like this, you have Vayakhel-Pekudei, Chazak V'nis Chazek, and Parshas Hachodesh. So we look for ways to connect them. So there was a few ideas that I saw. We say Chazak V'nis Chazek. We need in the current events of the world, with the world at war, we're in the footsteps of Mashiach, but we need a lot of chizuk. So I saw some ideas that are unrelated in their initial origin, let's say, but I think they come together about how we view world events and how we look forward to the coming of Mashiach. It should be very soon. This should be the final war before the coming of Mashiach. So there's a sefer that was put out. There was a tzaddik from Tunisia, a chacham. His name was Rav Meir Verjani Hakoyen, and he had a difficult life. He was blind as a child. He died young. He was sick at his later years, and after he died, some of his talmidim put together a lot of his divrei Torah in a sefer called Ma'ori Naim, not to be confused with the Ma'ori Naim of the Chernobyl Rabbi. This is a Ma'ori Naim from a Sephardi Chacham, and he deals with the first pasuk in Parshas Pekudei. Right? We know, but let's back up a second. Parshas Hachodesh, we're gonna bench Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Parshas Hachodesh is the first mitzvah that was given to the Jewish people as a people. It's really the mitzvah. It's the parsha of redemption. We know Nisan. Chazal tell us, B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Nisan Asidl Higal, that in Nisan we were redeemed. In Nisan we will see the final redemption. Mitzvah Hashem, should be this Nisan, should come very quickly. So we're in this time of redemption, and he sees in the first pasuk of Pekudei, this Ma'ori Naim sees in the first pasuk of Pekudei a reference to the Geula, and something that should be very encouraging to us. It says Ele Pekudei HaMishkan. It says these are the reckonings of the Mishkan. Mishkan HaEdus, the Mishkan of the Edus. So you have the word Mishkan there twice. Asher Pukad al Pi Moshe, which were reckoned by Moshe's doing. Avodas Alavim, the labor of the Leviim, Biadi Isamar ben Aaron HaKohen, in the hands of Isamar ben Aaron HaKohen. So he says there's a medrash on Parshas Achrei Mos, a medrash Tanchuma, that talks about how that things, the lashon of the medrash. The Medrash there lists a lot of the times that the Jewish people were redeemed, from Mitzrayim through Moshe and Aharon, in the days of Sisera through Barak and Devorah. It mentions a few places, and it says that because those were brought about through human hands, human beings, so you ended up going back into Galus. But La'asad Lavai, the words of the Medrash are, Ava La'asad Lavai, Ani ba'atzmi goyel eschem. Hashem says, I myself will redeem you. V'shuv ein atam mishtabdim, and then you won't go back into servitude. You won't go back into Galus. Right? And he says that many of the Mefarshim say on this Medrash that's the reason why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed twice. Why? The two Beis HaMikdash were destroyed twice was because the Geula that brought about the building of them was through Basar V'Dam. It was through human hands, right? And just like a person has an end, a person dies. We only live to 120 years. So too, any redemption that's brought about through human hands also has to end. So the first Beis HaMikdash, or the first Mishkan, and then continuing to the Beis HaMikdash, the Jews didn't go into Galus between then, so that was brought about through Moshe, and the second one was brought about through Ezra, and therefore they were both destroyed, right? He says, but the third Beis HaMikdash will be brought about through Hashem. Now he says, what does this mean? He says this has to do with our pasuk. It says Mishkan twice. Ele Pekudei HaMishkan, Mishkan HaEdus. Right? He says that it's mentioned twice because two Beis HaMikdashes were destroyed. And why is that? The pasuk tells us, the pasuk clues us in, because Asher Pukad al Pi Moshe, it was reckoned, it was established through Moshe, who was a human being, even though Moshe was the greatest human being, but he was a human being, and therefore the second Geula, the second Beis HaMikdash, right? Moshe built the Mishkan, which led to the Beis HaMikdash, and then the second one was through Ezra, right? Was also Basar V'Dam, and you see even here everything was given over Biad Isamar ben Aaron HaKohen. It's all human beings, and therefore the two Mishkans were destroyed. But he says he has a question. I don't understand. Because what led to the building of the Mishkan, which ultimately led to the building of the first Beis HaMikdash, that was Gulas Mitzrayim, the redemption from Mitzrayim, right? We're going to be in a few weeks sitting at the Seder night recalling this. But we say throughout the Seder right? We talk about that it was Hashem b'chvoido v'atzma who took us out of Mitzrayim. It was Hashem Himself, right? Ani v'loy malach, ani v'loy soraf, and we say v'yirtzienu Hashem Mitzrayim b'yad chazaka v'zroina tuyav mar God l'voices of moivsim. Hashem took us out with all these great miracles. Hashem Himself took us out. So the whole medrash and the explanations of the medrash that this is the reason why we went back into Golus is because that geula was done through human hands, through Moshe and Aaron, doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, right? If it's done through Hashem, it should be irreversible. We should never have to go back into Golus. So he uses this to explain an amazing phenomenon. We know that throughout a lot of our history, the Jewish people were in concentrated areas, right? They were in general areas, right? Originally, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Jews were taken to Rome. They spread out a little bit, but they weren't all over the world. Nowadays, we're everywhere in the world, right? There are Jews in all four corners of the world. Explains this Ma'arei Naim that when Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, that was irreversible. That meant we would never go back to Mitzrayim. We would, even though maybe it's a little bit of a funny time to be saying that as Jews who are trying to get out of Eretz Yisrael for Pesach are going through Mitzrayim, but Jews would never be subjugated in Mitzrayim again. That was permanent because Hashem took us out. Okay, the Beis Hamikdash was built by man, by Shlomo Melech, by Ezra, so those were destroyed. But Hashem did us a favor. So sometimes it could feel discouraging that we're all over the world. Jews are spread out all over the world, right? And throw a rock anywhere in the world and you'll hit a Chabad house. There's Jews everywhere. And that seems discouraging. But in truth, he points out that this was a favor that Hashem did to us. Because if you go back to Parashat Beshalach and Perek Yud Daled, Pasuk Yud Gimel and Yud Daled, Moshe tells the Jewish people, Vayomer Moshe la'am al tiro, do not be afraid, hisyatzvu uru'es Yeshuas Hashem, right? Stand fast and see the salvation of Hashem. Asher yas lechem hayom that He's going to do for you today. Ki atem re'isem es Mitzrayim hayom, because you see Mitzrayim hayom, le'soisifu liroisam oid ad olam. You'll never see them again. Why? The next pasuk says, Hashem yilochem Hashem will make war for you. So we see, and you'll be silent. Hashem will take care of it. Meaning, what's the implication of that pasuk? When Hashem wages war for you, when Hashem redeems you, which He was doing at Mitzrayim, going through the Yam Suf, you'll never return there. It's permanent. When Hashem redeems us Himself, not through human hands, it's permanent. So Hashem therefore did us a favor. Since we're spread all over the world, the next geula that's coming any day now, Hashem Himself will redeem us from all corners of the world, and therefore there'll never be able to be another Gullus, because where would we go into Gullus again, right? Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, that was permanent, but we ended up in Gullus, in Persia, in Rome, all the other Gulluses that we had. In Greece, right? We went through all these other Gulluses. But once Hashem takes us out, openly, that's clear Hashem, when the third Beis Hamikdash descends from Shemayim, no human hands are going to build that Beis Hamikdash, it's going to come down, right? Then by nature the geula has to be permanent. So that's so encouraging, right? We see the world what's going on in the world right now. Everything seems to be insane. We don't know where to turn. Anti-Semitism is rampant. Everybody says, how could we possibly save? But it's a bracha, because we're everywhere and because we can't be saved by human hands. Only Hashem could save us, and it's going to be from everywhere. It's going to be permanent. There's nowhere else we'll be able to go into Gullus. So we see in this idea, going into Parshat Chodesh, in this parsha, and we have this Parshat Pekudei, where this is hinted to, we see such encouragement. We're going into the month of Geula, we see such encouragement that we're about to experience, Mirz Hashem, we should be worthy, but or even if we're not worthy, Hashem should give us a chesed, that we're going to see a permanent Geula. There'll be no place left. We have been in Gullus everywhere. There's no place left. Once Hashem takes us out of those places of Gullus, it's impossible for us to go back into Gullus, and that's a beautifully optimistic message. So I saw another idea just to bring Parshas Vayakhel into this. On the first pasuk in Parshas Vayakhel, Moshe is called Adas Bnei Yisrael. Moshe gathers the entire Jewish people. Vayomer lehem, and he says, "Ela hadvarim asher tziva Hashem lasois oisam." These are now he uses the word dvarim. These are the things or the words that Hashem told you to make them, to do them, right? The Chayz of Lublin asks the question. He says, really, the pasuk's using the wrong word. It shouldn't say Ela hadvarim. It should have said Ela hamasim. These are the things that you should make, right? Dvarim are like words. Dvarim are things. But really, it should see these are the maisim that you should make. These are, when you make something, osem meisim. You don't make dvarim, right? And then the next pasuk says, Sheishes yom te'asa malacha. For 6 days, te'asa really means your work will be done. Your work will be done, right? Instead of saying you'll do work, which is a little bit funny that your work will be done. 6 days of the week you work, right? Sheishes yom tasa malacha, it should say, but it says te'asa malacha. He makes another point also. He says that Moshe is gathering the people. These are things that Hashem is telling you to do, but really He's not telling you to do something. He's telling you not to work on Shabbos, right? There's no chiyuv that you have to work during the 6 days of the week. You don't have to go to work. If a person can afford to not work, he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to go to work. The tzivui, the command of Hashem, is not to work on Shabbos. So what does it mean? Tziva lasois. Hashem commanded us to work. The real tzivui is not to work on Shabbos. So back in Parshas Vayechi, and I think we spoke about it this year, when Yaakov gathers his sons to tell them about what's going to happen when Mashiach comes, it says, "Hey, osfu gather v'agida lechem es asher yikra eschem b'achos yom." And I'll tell you what will be at the end of the day. That what was Yaakov Avinu saying? What was the hidden message there? Gather together. When you have achdus, when you're together, that will bring about Mashiach. Right? Yaakov was hinting to them the secret to bringing about Mashiach. Right, we know the Beis Hamikdash, at least the second Beis Hamikdash, was destroyed because of sinas chinam. Yaakov was hinting to them, if Jews are together, if Jews care about each other, love each other, then the Mashiach will come. And he says that Yetzias Mitzrayim, we see that there was achdus, right? He says because we know that by Matan Torah, which was only 49 days after they left Mitzrayim, that they were Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad, right? We know that they were all together. There was achdus, and that brought about Matan Torah. He says Mistama. There's no reason to think otherwise, that when they left Mitzrayim already they had that kind of achdus, and that's what brought them out of Mitzrayim. That achdus brought them out of Mitzrayim, that they would continue to carry forward until they got to Matan Torah, and they were Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad. And he quotes the famous pasuk from Micha that in the future Gula will also be Kimei Tzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim. It's a pasuk in Micha, Perek Zayin, pasuk Tezvav, that Hashem says, "I will redeem you like I redeemed you Mitzrayim." You'll be in that same situation of achdus. So now says the Chayzer, where we read our pasuk in Vayakhel. Vayakhel Moshe, what did he do? He first gathered the Jewish people, gathering them ba'achtos. He gathers them all together, and he teaches them, Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'asos hasem. These are the words. In other words, it's not the things that you should make, right? La'asos oisam, things that you make. It's that I'm teaching you a lesson. I'm teaching you a lesson of achtos. I'm teaching you Vayakhel Moshe es kol hadas Yisrael vayomer aleim Eila hadvarim. What's the dvarim? I'm going back on Vayakhel. Asher tziva Hashem la'asos oisam. What is Hashem telling you? Achdus. You have to have achdus. And what's going to happen if you have the achdus? Then the pasuk continues into Shabbos, but it says sheish yom te'asa malacha. Your work will be done me'atzmai, on its own, through others. Others will do your work for you, because when you have Geula, the pasuk in Yeshaya, Perek Samach Aleph, pasuk Hey says, "V'roz zorim tzarnchem." Others will tend to your sheep. You won't have to do anything. All your malachta will be done by through others. When Mashiach comes, the key is Vayakhel. You'll get together, and you'll have achdus. Then Mashiach will come, and your work will be done. These are the dvarim. It's not, Moshe wasn't telling them Asher tziva Hashem la'asos oisam, that you should make things, right? That's what it seems like in the parsha. You're going to make things for the Mishkan. No, Moshe is telling them, "Vayomer aleim Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem." This is what Hashem was telling you. The secret is here. Achdus of the Jewish people is going to bring about Mashiach. And you see this also in the Parsha and other places, also in Perek Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Tes, when it's talking about the Kruvim, right? We know the Kruvim symbolized Hashem's love for the Jewish people, right? The two cherubic forms on top of the Aron. It says the key there was Ufneim Ishal Achiv. When they face each other, when they care about each other, when they love each other, when they stare at each other, that's when there's Achdus. That's when Hashem says, now I'm happy with the Jewish people, right? When they're facing each other, when they're turned away, that means Hashem is angry at us. When we turn away from each other, Hashem is not happy with us. When we turn to each other, when we worry about each other, we take care of each other, then Hashem turns to us. And that's why similarly on the pasuk Vayakhel, it seems also funny. We mentioned the question of la'asos oisam. So there's an answer from the vision to Rabbi, right? We said, what do you mean on Shabbos that you're doing things? The mitzvah of Shabbos is not to do something. And even though we have some mitzvahs, kiddush and things, but most of Shabbos is about not doing. He says the reason for that is because when you have the day off, so what do? You get together in shul, you daven together, you sing zmiras together. That's what Shabbos is. By not doing, you're creating achdus, you're creating Einig Shabbos, right? You're creating a time for people to get together and to reconnect with friends that maybe they're too busy to get together with during the week. And that's why the halachas of Shabbos in the beginning of the parasha seem out of place, right? But the idea is Vayakhel, Moshe is telling them get together. And when do you do that? You do that on Shabbos. You show them what you show Jews what it looks like to be together. Moshe is showing them, I'm gathering you all together. Moshe is showing it to them. He's not just telling them. He's like, this is the key. You want Gula? So we go into Parshat Chodesh, and Pesach coming soon. We see that the world is going crazy, but we know that Hashem is going to be the one to take us out. Our part is to have achdus with each other, to have friendship, to love and care about other Jews, not to get upset about silly things, to have tremendous achdus. The more we build that achdus, and then Hashem, we see already that things are in play. Hashem is already orchestrating world events. Nothing seems to make sense. Nobody knows what's going on. That's Hashem orchestrating the final Geula from all four corners of the world, so that there's no place we can ever go back to Galus. We should all see that Mirz Hashem very soon with our own eyes, and we should work on the achdus part from ourselves, and with that we should be zeicha to see the Geula Shlem Meher B'Yameinu, Amen. I wish you all a beautiful, wonderful Shabbos.